I'm Michael Smolens, and thanks for joining me on my video tutorial series for the jazz classic Killer Joe. I was introduced to this Benny Golson song through Quincy Jones's Walking in Space recording back in 1969. Golson wrote it a decade earlier, and it's appeared on over 60 different CDs. We're going to be covering a wide range of topics on Killer Joe, from soloing and accompanying, or comping as it's usually called, to playing the melody in different ways and even reharmonizing it. The recording you just heard was my rearrangement in a duo format. This video will cover a series of more advanced left-hand voicings for the opening of the solo section. Let's begin. In our previous video on Killer Joe, we worked with parallel pairs of chords, something that reflects the whole step movement from C13 to B flat 13. Now we're going to do something a little subtler, which is working with common tone chord pairs. That means the top note of your left hand voicing is in common with both chords. Let's begin with our first chord with E on the bottom, and our common note is C. 3, 13, flat 7, root. And that moves to a slightly different shape, but with C on the top, to D, G, A flat, C. That's 3, 13, flat 7, 9. Even though the chords are slightly different, the fingering is still the same. Notice how different that sounds from doing all parallel motion. Okay, our next one uses a common tone of D, and that looks like this voicing. Probably the most common 4-note voicing for a 13th chord in this register. But then I'm going to move to a different shape. That being 13, flat 7, 9, 3. So you have a wider sound followed by a more compressed sound. And that motion is called contrary motion, even though the top is shared. Technically it's oblique. And this is what it sounds like. Our next pair uses the E as the common tone. And again, with all these voicings, you generally want to not only omit the root, but omit the fifth. So we have our chord with E on top, and that's A, B flat, D, E, which is 13, flat 7, 9, and 3, moving to this sound. 13, flat 7, 9, sharp 11. Notice that there's no 3 in this chord, and that's the only one out of all the chords that I'm doing that omits the 3. Why did I do that? So you'd have better voice leading. Here's this chord, here's this pair of chords without the top note, and you can hear what I'm saying. Notice how it's parallel. Then add the E on top. And you've got a pretty convincing sound. Our last pair uses G on top. And that would be the first appearance of the 5th, 3, flat 7, and 13. This is going to be a very new shape for most pianists because having your 4th on B flat and your 2nd on E is a very wide stretch. But if you raise your wrist a little more, you'll find that it's more comfortable. That chord now resolving to a more familiar sound. Flat 7 on the bottom, 9, 3, 13. So again, going from here to here. Because I happen to have naturally a wide space between my fourth and fifth fingers, I actually find this fingering to be more comfortable. 1, 3, 4, 5. But in working with many students over the years, I found that most students don't have that kind of spacing between their fourth and fifth fingers, and so I usually find that 1, 2, 3, 5 is more comfortable for them. But for me, I prefer this. So again, a less familiar voicing into a very familiar voicing. That's generally as high as I go for most comping. Now we're going to hear all 4 pairs of chords with bass accompaniment, thanks to my handy looper. Chord 1, C on top. Now the second one. You can already hear how different this is from the parallel chords you might have seen in the first video. Now we're going to do the common tone on E and G. So now you have 4 different possibilities for playing common tone chord pairs. When you combine that with parallel chords, you're going to have all sorts of options to create variety in your playing. I'm Michael Smolens, and you can check out more of my teaching videos on my website, which is secondsightmusic.com, as well as on Facebook, which is under Second Sight Music Studios. Thanks, and have fun.